a young warrior who risked her life for her nation. She fought bravely to liberate her country. She was captured, tried, and burned alive. You probably already know who I'm talking about. Today's curiosities are about Joan of Arc. Here are 10 facts about her. 10. Birth and childhood. Joan of Arc was born in 1412 in the small village of Domremy, France. Although the exact date of her birth is uncertain, it is generally agreed that she was born early that year. The uncertainties arise because people did not keep records as we do today. However, during her trial, Joan stated she was about 19 years old, indicating her birth in 1412. She was the youngest of 4 children, daughter of Jacques d'Arc, a farmer, and Isabelle Romee. The family was extremely religious, and this devotion deeply influenced Joan from a very young age. She attended church regularly and was known for her piety and religious fervor. Joan grew up during the 100 Years' War, a devastating conflict between France and England that lasted from 1337 to 1453. This war significantly impacted her childhood, as Domremy was located in an area frequently threatened by invasions. Joan reported that the village was set on fire during one of the conflicts. At that time, the modern concept of childhood and adolescence did not exist. Children were treated as small adults, participating in family responsibilities and closely witnessing the harsh realities of life. Joan, thus, was shaped by an environment of instability and violence, factors that contributed to her strong sense of divine mission and patriotism. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now so you don't miss any curiosities about the saints. 9. Religious family. Joan of Arc was born into a deeply religious family, daughter of Jacques d'Arc and Isabelle Romee, in Domremy, a small village in France. Her father was a farmer, a common profession in the region, which provided the family with a simple but stable life. Religiosity was a central aspect of the d'Arc family's life. Isabelle, her mother, was especially devout and instilled a strong sense of faith in Joan from a very young age. The family actively participated in local religious practices, attending church whenever possible. This intense spiritual environment played a crucial role in shaping Joan's character. From childhood, Joan exhibited profound religious fervor. She was known in the village for her piety and frequently sought refuge in prayer. This devotion not only shaped her personal identity but also prepared her for the extraordinary role she would later play in life. The strong family bond and unwavering faith were fundamental for Joan. This religious foundation decisively influenced her, making her believe in the divine visions she began to have at the age of 13. These spiritual experiences would guide her in her mission to liberate France and contribute to the eventual victory against the English. 8. Voices and visions. At the age of 13, Joan of Arc began experiencing mystical events that would transform her life. She reported hearing voices that she believed were divine messages. These voices belonged to sacred figures, Saint Michael the Archangel, Saint Margaret of Antioch, and Saint Catherine of Alexandria. Joan had her first vision while in the garden of her father's house. The voices, accompanied by bright lights, instructed her to lead a virtuous life and eventually to undertake a divine mission. These heavenly entities told her it was her duty to help France in the fight against the English, under the leadership of King Charles VII. Initially, these experiences were frightening for Joan, but she soon accepted them as a divine calling. The messages became more frequent, and Joan firmly believed she was being guided by God. These visions gave her a strong sense of purpose and the conviction that she needed to liberate France from English occupation. The voices instructed her to seek support to join the French army and lead the troops into battle. The courage she demonstrated by presenting herself as a messenger of God was extraordinary, especially for a young peasant girl at that time. Joan's visions were viewed in various ways by her contemporaries. Some believed she had a divine gift, while others were skeptical, suggesting she might have had conditions like epilepsy or schizophrenia. However, her steadfastness and determination won her many supporters. These mystical experiences were the driving force behind Joan's journey, leading her to play a crucial role in French history. The voices and visions not only defined her mission but also were central in her trial, where she was accused of heresy and witchcraft. Leave your prayer request in the comments so that Saint Joan of Arc may intercede for you before God. 7. Disguise for war. Determined to fulfill her divine mission to assist the French army, Joan of Arc decided she needed to present herself differently to be taken seriously. At that time, the role of women was restricted, especially in military contexts, and she knew she needed a strategy to be accepted in the army. To achieve this, Joan cut her hair short and dressed like a man. This transformation was not just about appearance but a crucial strategy to gain the trust of the soldiers and King Charles VII. The male disguise was essential for her safety and allowed her to move freely in predominantly male environments, where women were rarely accepted. Joan believed that by dressing as a man, her intentions would be taken seriously, and she could participate in military activities without question. This decision showed her astuteness and determination, highlighting her willingness to challenge social norms to fulfill what she believed was her divine mission. With this disguise, Joan was able to approach the king and convince the court to allow her participation in the army, marking the beginning of her remarkable contribution to French history. 6. Support from the king. Driven by her divine visions, Joan of Arc felt compelled to seek an audience with King Charles VII. At just 16 years old, after many attempts and persistence, she finally managed to present herself to the king at the court of Chinon in 1429. Her arrival was met with skepticism, as she was an uneducated young peasant girl claiming to receive messages from saints. The king, facing a series of defeats against the English in the 100 Years' War, was in a vulnerable position. Still, it remains a mystery what exactly led him to take Joan seriously. Some accounts suggest she was able to identify the king disguised among the crowd, which could have been interpreted as a divine sign of her authenticity. During the audience, Joan asserted that she had a divine mission to liberate France and that she was the right person to lead the troops. Her passion and conviction impressed Charles VII, who, against all expectations, decided to give her a chance. He ordered a series of tests to verify her virginity and confirm her purity, an important factor to dismiss accusations of witchcraft. Historians still debate why the king accepted Joan, but it is widely believed that he was desperate for a solution. Additionally, her presence brought hope and a renewed fighting spirit among the soldiers. Joan was then equipped with armor, a banner, and granted leadership of French troops, an unprecedented event in military history of that era. The king's decision to trust a young peasant girl not only changed the course of the war but also left a lasting legacy that continues to intrigue scholars. 5. Military victories. Joan of Arc, also known as Joan of Orleans, played a monumental role in France's military victories during the 15th century. Her most notable role was in the Battle of Orleans, where her strategic skills and moral inspiration were crucial to the French victory over the English forces. Orleans was under siege by the English, posing a significant threat to the French. Joan, with her religious conviction and strategic vision, led the French troops with unparalleled determination. In addition to Orleans, Joan participated in other important battles, all aimed at driving out the English and restoring the French crown. Her presence not only boosted the morale of the French soldiers, many of whom were disheartened and worn out after years of conflict, but also brought new hope to the French people. Her military strategy focused on leveraging the moral and psychological advantage over the enemy, which was crucial for several subsequent victories. 4. Accusation of Witchcraft. Joan of Arc faced severe accusations of witchcraft from the English, who saw her military abilities and influence as something supernatural and demonic. These accusations were fundamental to her capture and subsequent trial for heresy. The English, besides seeing Joan as a military threat, also considered her a mystical and dangerous figure. Her ability to lead and inspire the French troops was seen as beyond common human capability. This was exacerbated by Joan's claims of having visions and receiving divine guidance, which the English interpreted as a sign of a pact with the devil. These accusations of witchcraft were raised during the siege of Compiègne, where Joan was captured by the Burgundians, allies of the English. She was subsequently handed over to the English, who saw her not only as a formidable military leader but also as a spiritual figure challenging their own beliefs and authority. Joan of Arc's trial for heresy was a landmark event, where her divine visions and actions were questioned and distorted to serve the political and military interests of the English. Despite the accusations and biased trial, Joan maintained her faith and courage until the end, leaving a legacy of resistance and determination that transcended the accusations of her detractors. 3. Death at the stake. In one of the most tragic moments in Joan of Arc's history, in 1431, she was condemned to death by burning at the stake on charges of witchcraft. This significant event occurred after a controversial trial conducted by the English, where Joan was found guilty of heresy for her supposed supernatural practices and for challenging English authority in France. On the day of her execution, Joan demonstrated extraordinary courage and faith. Led to the stake, she maintained her composure and, according to historical accounts, repeatedly called out the name of Jesus. This gesture not only reflected her religious devotion until the very last moment but also challenged the accusations of a pact with the devil that had been made against her. Joan of Arc's death at the stake not only prematurely ended her life at the age of 19 but also solidified her status as a martyr and symbol of resistance. Her execution was an event that resonated through the centuries, inspiring admirers and generating debates about justice, religion, and political power in the medieval era. 2. Posthumous Rehabilitation. After her tragic death at the stake in 1431, Joan of Arc faced a surprising posthumous fate. 25 years later, in 1456, the Roman Catholic Church initiated a formal process to review her conviction. This posthumous rehabilitation process was motivated by a growing recognition that Joan had been the victim of an unjust and biased political trial. The review was conducted by an ecclesiastical court in Rouen, the same place where Joan had been tried and condemned 2 decades earlier. Testimonies were collected from various people who knew Joan or were involved in the events related to her trial and execution. These testimonies confirmed that Joan was a pious leader dedicated to the cause of France and that the accusations of witchcraft were unfounded. On July 7, 1456, the ecclesiastical court issued a historic decision. Joan of Arc was declared innocent of the charges of heresy and witchcraft. Moreover, she was recognized as a martyr who suffered injustices in the name of her faith and her nation. This verdict not only cleared her name but also restored her reputation as a national heroine of France and an inspiring figure for many around the world. 1. Canonization. On May 16, 1920, nearly 5 centuries after her death, Joan of Arc achieved an exceptional milestone by being canonized by the Roman Catholic Church. This formal process of recognition as a saint was completed by Pope Benedict XV, an event that further solidified Joan's status as a figure of profound spiritual and historical significance. Joan of Arc's canonization was based on her exemplary life of religious devotion, personal sacrifice, and extraordinary courage. She was recognized not only for her military actions in defense of France during the 100 Years' War but also for her unwavering piety and faith, demonstrated even during her unjust trial and execution. The canonization ceremony, held at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, was an event of great importance for Catholics and the French people in particular. By elevating Joan of Arc to the altars as a saint, the Catholic Church officially acknowledged her sanctity and the validity of her Christian devotion. Her feast day is celebrated on May 30th. We have reached the end of another story full of curiosities. Don't forget to leave in the comments which saint story you would like to see here on the channel. And until the next story.